And it
Phew.
says it's recording as well.
We are live on Facebook. Woohoo!
So welcome everyone to ReZume Arts November 11th edition. We are super excited to be with three amazing singer-songwriters of our area. And what I want to do is just first introduce us from Region 2 Arts Council, and then I'll just briefly introduce the artists for today. And then we'll have each one introduce themselves and then get into a really vibrant conversation that was already happening before we jumped on this call today. So my name is Catherine Gonzalez. I work as a program assistant with Region 2 Arts Council, and
I'm Holly Alcott. I am the grants manager for the Region 2 Arts Council.
And we're super excited to be here today with three singer-songwriters. So we have Vicki Goble, and she is originally from Baudette. And we have Joseph Holt. So you want to, there we go. And he is originally from Park Rapids. And then we have Doyle Turner, who's originally from Monoman. So we're really excited to have three singer-songwriters that have really different styles and a lot of different experience in terms of how they come to their work. And I would just love to invite you to just share a little bit about you, about your work, what's going on with you at this time that you want to share in terms of, you know, current projects or anything like that. And why don't we start with ladies first? Vicki.
What I have going on now is I'm working on a 10-song project that I hope to do some pitching for. I have found some musicians to work on it with me. And I have a producer who will do the fancy stuff after I've got the tracks put together, and he can also do some tracks for me as well. I just finished this year 2 albums. I just did a Halloween album, a short album, an EP. That was done by, well, some of the producing was done and the mastering was done by a musician from Florida. The 10-song project, the musicians are from Minnesota, I think, and the producers from England. And then I had an album last spring that was 12 songs, and that was produced by another producer from England. And I did the writing and the vocals, and that's pretty much what I'm working on right now. I'm also doing some co-writing. I'm a member of Minnesota Association of Songwriters, and they have regular writing challenges, and a lot of those are co-writing challenges. And the current one, they're always really interesting. They have such interesting rules that you have to follow. Like this one had to have a line in it that goes something about an email. The email you sent to me was really important. I don't remember the exact line right off the top of my head, but it was a line that I thought it was kind of long, and I thought, how can we ever get that in a song? But we did. In fact, it's the first line in the song. I have a co-writer that we did that with. And it had to be in song form AAA or AABA, which I don't usually write in. I usually like verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. And so that was challenging and made the song short. And it had to have a certain chord progression in it, which was the exact chord progression of a song from the 60s, I think. So getting that song out of my head and doing something original was a challenge. But those are always fun, doing the challenges. And I'm in a songwriters forum that's based in England, and they have challenges from time to time as well. Usually they don't have much for rules though, so they're a little looser.
So Vicki, one of the things that really comes through with what you're sharing is you do a lot of collaboration across the way. And I know that you have a really strong mission about the work that you do. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your mission and how you got started with music, and then maybe talk a little bit about the collaboration you do.
Okay, the mission is it's never too late to try something new. I actually didn't really get into songwriting until I was nearly retired, not quite. I did a little writing before that, like maybe as much as 10 or 20 years ago. I actually wrote my first song in college, but it needed a lot of work, which I've revisited it lately. But one thing that, as I got older, that bothered me was when you get old, you're supposed to quit doing interesting stuff, or at least that was what was in my brain. And I don't agree with that. And I've gotten more and more convinced that retirement, or your third act, is time to start a whole new hobby, a whole new career, a whole new whatever. Do something you've always wanted to do your whole life, because now you don't have to go to work. You don't have that interfering with your time. You can really devote yourself to developing this, whatever you always wanted to do. For me, it was write songs, which I never thought I could do. I thought you were born with that or you weren't. And I found out, in 2014, I took a songwriting course and found out there are tools and skills that you can learn like in any other profession or hobby or whatever. So I've learned ways to write songs that I like. My first songs way back that I wrote were so embarrassing to me. I didn't ever want anyone to hear them. But now my favorite songs are the ones I write. And my favorite one is usually the one I wrote last. Not always. Sometimes I write one that's I don't like as well as the others. But that, and as far as how I got started, I always wanted to do stuff with music. When I was in grade school, I challenged a kid 2 years ahead of me to a singing contest. And he told me to go first, and I started singing, and then he told me to stop. He said, "You win."
That's awesome.
When I was 15, my brother wanted to get a guitar. So my parents got him one for Christmas, and he decided he wasn't interested in music. So my other brother and I both learned to play and sing. When I was 16, I was in a program called Upward Bound here in Bemidji, and I took the guitar with me, and that's where I started singing in front of people. I was always pretty nervous. I mean, really, really nervous. It was a real impediment. And I still can get pretty nervous depending on the circumstances, but that's where I started singing, like in the lounge and stuff. And then I did that in college. And then I had friends who did it too. So we would sit in the lounges and sing and play, and the lounges would fill up with people. But then when I got married and had kids and stuff, I kept selling my guitars. I always had one guitar, and then I didn't play it, so I would sell it. And then pretty soon I'd want a guitar, so I'd buy one. And then after a while, I'd be like, well, I'm not playing it, so I'd sell it. And that happened several times. And then I got my first grant. This is what really got me back into it, I think. I got my first grant from the Region 2 Arts Council, and I had been singing in a group. We'd put together a double quartet, and I was singing in that, but no original stuff. But then I got that, my sister, if you want the whole story, my sister came to me and said, we should, you know how everybody used to have a piano in their house and in the old days, and everybody would gather around the piano and at least one person knew how to play, and they would all sing together. So people don't do that anymore. So we should make a CD of sing-along songs for families to do, because her kids were having kids and she wanted them to have that. So I thought, this is a great project. So I applied for a grant and I got it. So then I started working with my two sisters to choose songs and stuff like that. And first, my sister, who brought it up in the first place, said, I don't want to do this. So I said, okay, well, I'll just do it with our other sister. So I got her out to the recording studio once, and we did that once. And when that was over, she says, I don't want to do this. So I said, fine, I'll change the project. They let me change the project to just putting together a CD, making an album. And I found two other people to sing with me, and we made the album. Like I said, it took 2 years, but we got it done. So that got me into that. And I did have one original song on that album. So that also kind of kicked off the writing of stuff that I didn't mind people hearing.
And
then I've just kind of gradually increased since then.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And so, Joe, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about you and the work that you have going on right now?
Hi, I'm Joe. Let me think. Yeah, I'm on my third grant, which is how I landed here, and those grants have been tremendously helpful. I'm a pretty typical case of a fellow my age. I'm in my early 50s. I started out in music as a teenager, touring with a band Allied Forces throughout Minnesota, doing cover songs. And then I got married. My wife went with me on one of my tours, watched me on stage, watched the female reaction afterwards, and told me that at the time she was my girlfriend, about to become my fiance, and she knew that. And she said, you know what? I didn't realize it was like this. I don't like this. I don't like all these other girls around, and I don't like how close you are with your backup singers, and I'm uncomfortable with this. So me or touring as a musician. You can do one of the two, but I'm not willing to live that life. And I didn't blame her. I mean, I think that was a wise choice. And so I said, yeah, all right. So I went off. I had a career, got married, had my children. My children are grown and gone. And so about 10 years ago, my good buddy Roy Hirschberger, who plays guitar with me, he and I started up a band just for grins and giggles. And that really progressed. And for the last 5 years, I've been actively writing again and working my way up the chain of professional writing. My song catalog, because that's what you develop here, you develop a song catalog, is very small. It's only about 120 songs. So, that kind of limits some of what I can do. But I managed to, get the attention of the folks in Nashville and that kind of thing. And so I work with Murph. They're a Music Road, Nashville pitch house is really what they are. They're a pitch house. If you don't know what a pitch house is, those are folks that take your songs, go, hey, we really think this is a great song. And they pick opportunities for people who wish to purchase songs. And then they marry up your song with those opportunities and see if any of those people would like to purchase your song. Sometimes those people are other artists, big name artists, artists that you would hear on the radio every day. Sometimes those are, and this is more what I concentrate on, are sync placements where you do art for TV and movies, songs, where you... and that's kind of been my thing. When I'm on stage, with Roy, I have a favorite joke. I'll tell it here because it'll clarify some of how I get this done. I tell people that Roy, my associate guitarist, he is an amateur, and I am a professional because Roy has a day job. And my wife has a day job. So that's how that actually works, to be perfectly dead honest with you. But I've developed a beautiful studio here, much of which is part of grants. I originally I'll tell you this story. What launched me into writing much more seriously is Roy and I were on tour, and we were running the Canadian border back and forth across the Minnesota border against Canada. And we did a show in Rainier, Minnesota. And we could look out across the lake. We could see Canada on the other side, see the cute little Canadians listening to our songs and things. Well, they looked small and cute from where we were. And you could see the patrol boats coming in and out and the border patrol and whatnot. And Woody, who owned this business called Woody's Fairly Reliable Guide Service, we were playing at his establishment right on the lake. They were shooting a History Channel documentary there, a reality TV show for Woody, because he's the wildest character any human being has ever met. Him and his cadre of other friends and associates up there, they're just insane people. They're wonderful. I loved them. Spent the weekend with them, learned all I could. And the History Channel was shooting this reality show. They saw our concert and came to us and they said, wow, you guys have that Minnesota sound. I didn't know what that meant then. I don't know what that means now. And they asked us if we would write, produce, and record the theme song for the reality show, Woody's Fairly Reliable Guide Service, which, of course, we were, all for that. We were always doing, we did all original music anyway. We don't do covers. And so we did that. Now, the History Channel chose not to pick up Woody's Fairly Reliable Guide Service as a TV show. They decided to go with a different show. But we got the theme song out of it, and nonetheless, we put it on our next record. Ultimately, now Woody's years later, has his own brand of rye whiskey, and I own the theme song for the whiskey, so I actually own the theme song for this rye whiskey that you can pick up at your local liquor retailer. That's where I got mine.
That's awesome.
What a guy. The guy's just nuts, And that's what launched my career as a writer. That's really how I did that. Mm-hmm. And from there, lots of writing, lots of learning. I did not send songs off to be produced and recorded in other places. I simply couldn't afford it. So it was just too expensive for me. So I spent the last 5 years, in addition to learning how to write, learning how to record, learning what equipment was needed, how you use it, how you do it, learning to produce full album productions right here in my studio and my friend Roy's studio. He also has one out in Pony Lake. And learning to collaborate with people around the world, bouncing tracks back and forth with other writers and recording engineers and singers and things like that. I started out in the Los Angeles songwriting community with a company called Taxi. I think that's where everybody starts out pretty much anymore. I didn't like Taxi. I was there a couple of years. So then I moved over to the Nashville scene, and I've liked that much better. That works well. So that's... Say that again?
Hey, Joe, we have a question from Facebook.
Yes.
On Facebook, they'd like to know a little bit more about some of the things that are in your studio with you, like your really cool microphone and the guitars in the background.
Sure. Well, I was going to do a little studio tour anyway. Would you like me to go ahead and do that right now? Take that moment? It won't take but a moment here. All right. The microphone that I'm using here is a Black Spade acoustic. It was custom built for me out of Switzerland, and the Region 2 Arts Council bought me this. This and my patron. I have a music patron, which is delightful. As a modern musician, it's much like being a musician back in the medieval times. You get yourself a music patron who believes in you, believes in your art, your product, and he has assisted me over the years in a lot of really wonderful ways. He prefers to remain anonymous, but that, along with the Region 2, this is a $3,000 microphone. Back here, you will see if I can actually do that. This is my cadre of microphones. These are some of my mics in my current collection. Some of these are very high end, some of them aren't. This one over here that's a custom built stage microphone. I had that custom built by a mic maker on the East Coast. That's my live performance mic, which you'll see in a video I'm going to show you here before too terrible long. But these are all various recording mics for different purposes. They all have a different thing that they do well. Otherwise, another thing the Region 2 got me, and this is the key to any good studio, this is called a microphone golden chain. This is a Rupert Neve designed piece of electronics. $1,000 for this side, $1,000 for that side. This is a mic preamp. This is a compressor. They have specific purposes when you're recording. This is a power conditioner. It conditions all the electricity that comes into this room. Over here, you will find my mixing desk. This actually controls my digital audio workstation. This is how I tell it what I want to do. I tell it what music I want it to play. I even create instruments inside the computer. That's a massive commercial computer over there that runs the studio for me. And this down here is my command center. This holds my headphones. It runs my monitors. It also runs my Rupert Neve. Over here, of course, you have my computer monitors. Not computer monitors, my studio monitors, which are all on, large arms. You'll also find up here in the studio a great deal of studio sound deadening capabilities. These are bass traps up here in the corner. They stop bass from bouncing around. They affect the sound of the room. And this is my 53-inch monitor that I'm doing all this on, because my eyes stink as I get older. There's the red light. No one's allowed to enter the studio until they push the buttons outside that flash on the red light. And then they only come in when I allow it, because I'm often recording. So I have to have the red light blast to really tell me that my wife or one of my children wants to come in and say something to me. My lighting rig, my current lighting rig, it is. The guitar wall on the back, the leather couch to sit comfortably and listen to fabulous mixes as we make music and all that kind of stuff. I do not play the guitar. Those are for show. I used to play the guitar, but as a vocalist, I grew so fast, and as a guitarist, I didn't, that I eventually gave up. And I just sing, and I just hire or bring in good guitarists to do all my guitar tracks. Or I have my guitar tracks done on my computer. My computer actually has the capability of just generating guitar tracks for me, which is pretty cool, actually. And they sound just like a real guitarist, because they are a real guitarist. They're just, it's complicated. I play my computer like an instrument. I tell it what key I want to be in, what chord structure I want to use, what kinds of instruments, what kind of play styles I need, regionally what kind of music I'm going to create and why and all that, and that's all done on a computer. So I'm a mix of live instrumentation and computer-generated instrumentation that you really can't tell the difference between the two anymore. The technology's gone that far. And that's my studio.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. That's a great introduction. So, and for everybody listening out there, don't worry. Keep watching, because we're going to have some really juicy conversation around all of the musicians that we have. And then you're going to, like Joe mentioned, you're going to get to actually experience some music happening today. So stay tuned. Doyle, we'd love to have you come on board, and I am going to spotlight you now.
Oh, thank you, Catherine. It's so nice to be here, and thank you for having me. I'm Doyle Turner, and I'm very much local. You've heard Joe talk about his and Vicki talk about their international connections, and I'm very much local. I'm from a little town, Nadawash, just really close to Monoman, and that's where I got my musical start. My dad played guitar, and he would many nights as we're going to sleep, he would come and sing to us, and I used to think that was kind of the main influence of what got me into music. But then I started thinking a little deeper, and my mom always made sure we were going to different theatrical or musical productions, and she loves music just as much as anybody in our family. And so we really got started on my grandma's porch. We would remember those little green coils that would keep the mosquitoes away. We put a couple of those on the porch and in the screen porch, and we'd sit out there and start playing, and it just kind of grew, and to the point now where my parents kind of host a music festival for their friends every year, and it's growing every year, where we have just people who want to come and play, and it's very not commercial. It's just very homegrown. And so when I moved to Bemidji in 1994 to start teaching in Bemidji area schools, I noticed that the Headwater School of Music had first Friday coffee house. And at that time they held it at the Griffey's downtown where the bakery is now. And the place would be packed. It was kind of the scene. And if you got a slot to sing, that was kind of a big deal. And so a friend of mine and I started playing that quite a bit, and it just kind of grew over the years. Like both Vicki and Joe mentioned, you get busy with family and other commitments. And so both my kids recently have been out on their own, and so I've gotten more time to put towards the music thing, but been pretty regular at the First Friday coffee houses for Headwaters, and have done a lot more around the area in terms of the state parks and that sort of thing. And as I was doing a lot of covers, I ran into and met a couple of really influential people in my life. Don Ziemann, who also worked for Bemidji area schools, just so supportive, and I knew that he had written a lot of originals, and he kind of started to nudge me, and we'd meet, and he'd say, well, what are you working on? And then Mark Fogelson is a fellow who's from around back home by Monoman, and he is a writer as well, a songwriter. And so he started to nudge me, and so about 5 or 6 years ago, I really started to take it and go a little more serious and put a lot of work towards it. Because like Vicki said, I always thought it's like that John Hyatt song. When I was a boy, I thought it just came to you, and I realized, slowly over my maturing, that really it's anything that you work at, you get better at. And so I consider myself kind of a lifelong student of songwriting. Did my first real songwriting maybe 10, 12 years ago, when my family decided it would be a really great idea to do an album of all originals. And we thought, well, how many songs go on an album? Well, it's got to be about 10. So we divvied it up. Everybody took 2. And so I wrote my 2 and was really pleased with it. And didn't think that I would ever be able to do that again, because it seemed like it's songwriting is a lot of work. And like Vicki said, there's a lot of tools you can use, and as you learn and you get better. But that's kind of where the start came from. And I've recently become a member of Minnesota Association of Songwriters in the last 2 or 3 years, and that's been tremendous. And also, I've got a Facebook group that's mainly based out of Minneapolis with Minneapolis musicians. And so they hold songwriting challenges in the dead of winter, and then in summer as well. And what a great if you want to message me, I can hook you up with this group, because this is so encouraging, and so you videotape yourself performing your song, and then you send it off, and it's really a study in how songwriting gets done. So I feel like I've learned and gained quite a bit in the last couple of 3 years here, culminating in an EP that I finished this spring in May. Worked with Supple Studios here in Bemidji, and then a fellow who's also a local musician, Lance Benson, who agreed to produce me. And so that was a huge learning experience. Like Joe mentions, this whole idea of what you need to do to create a studio, and then to what equipment you need and how it works and everything. And so we recorded all of that at Supple, but then since then, now I'm working on a fresh set of songs to do an album this winter, ready for spring release, and that I'm recording right here in this room. So I don't have as extensive of a studio as Joe, but I'm certainly getting along that. I recognize some of the brand names and some of the things that he's got going in his studio. So I'm going along the way here as well. And it's as much time as you want to put towards it. It eats it up, but it's also the most satisfying thing that I can remember. I spent a lot of time. I was an English major in college, and wrote poetry, and tried to work on short stories and novels and that sort of writing, and it never really fit. And songwriting has really struck a chord for me. It feels like this is what I was meant to do. This is what it's just like a bell rang in my head, and this is what I'm going to do until I die. So it's fun to finally find that, after a life of looking for that. And so, like I say, music will just absorb any and all energy you give to it, but you get so much more back out of it.
That's beautiful. Thank you. So now that we have a little bit of a sense of who's here, I want to make sure that you know that so everybody, sorry, I'm having, for some reason, my screen looks different today. So bear with me while I'm trying to get everybody back on gallery view there we go. So one of the things to remind everybody that's listening is that we do have a ReZume Arts page. So if you go to Region 2 Arts Council website, R2 Arts, so the letter R, the number 2, arts.org. If you go in there, you'll see a little button that says ReZume Arts. Click on that and you'll get a profile of all these amazing artists that we showcase, as well as connections, how to contact them. So Doyle mentioned message me. So there you can message. If you're interested in studio information, Joe is there. Vicki, everybody, there's ways for you to connect and listen to the music. And today, we are going to get a chance to do that. But I think this is where it really gets beautiful, is when we have that organic conversation across artists that do the same kind of work. And so I'd love to have you just, I know that one of the conversations that came up before we came live was the level of how different music is being recorded now and the collaborations that are happening. So I'd just love to hear, what you who are doing that. I know, Doyle, you spoke to that. All of you spoke to that in a little way, but I'd love to have you just kind of tell us a little bit about what's been your experience.
Just real quickly, Vicki mentioned Minnesota Association of Songwriters doing co-writing, and we're just finishing up a co-writing session right now. And my co-writer I've never met except through Zoom or Facebook and different events. But we just have never met, and he just sent me the last final mix of our song that we're gonna go ahead and submit. I ran across another Minnesota artist, Michael Shines, and he does a lot like Joe, where he does a lot of his recording right in his basement. And he got a request to do some vocals, and his vocals were accepted in Poland, and the song went bananas, and now he's got a gold record from Poland.
Wow, that's amazing. That is pretty incredible.
Yeah. So it's definitely a great tool that we can connect this way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the recording, modern recording, it's changed because of sync placement now. There was a time that wasn't really available to writers, but they will tell you, all of the gurus will tell you don't need nice equipment in order to make great music. And I have found, struggling with it over the years, that is true. Those gurus do not need nice equipment to make great music. I am not that skilled. I do. I just simply do. And it turns out to be what you want to do with the music when you're done. If you want to write music, you can sit down with your iPhone, and you can write music on a guitar. You can collaborate with people, get great lyrics. You can produce your guitar, your voice, and you can send it. If you have some connections to work with, you can get it under the nose of lots of well-known radio artists who can consider whether or not they would like to record that song. And that can be really, really, really lucrative, or it can net you absolutely nothing. It all kind of depends. But if you want to write music for sync placement, where songs go into television and movies, that is not an option for you. Then you have to have all the high-end equipment and all the high-end recording. You have to have the knowledge to use it, because what you have to send them is a finished product. It can't be a scratch demo with a guitar and a voice. So for me, the music I write doesn't lend itself to radio artists. It lends itself to sync placement. So I am forced, whether I like it or not, to own all kinds of fancy equipment, have all kinds of research to figure out how in the world do you actually use this stuff. And I can't afford to hire outside studios to assist me in any way because I produce so much music. That would just be outrageously expensive. So I have to do it all myself. And that's because of how I choose to go about selling my music and marketing my music. That is the big difference.
Mm-hmm. And Joe, if I remember correctly, people can connect with you if they're interested in doing recording, right?
Absolutely. I would love to have, and I haven't spent a lot of time cultivating clients to come into the studio, because most of my work has been, just like Doyle said, it's all online. I've never met any of these people. I mean, I work with these studios in Nashville all the time. I've never been to Nashville. I have no idea. It's all online stuff, bouncing tracks back and forth. But I now have enough equipment and enough knowledge. I would like to start accumulating a commercial base of people to come in and do music here in the studio. So connect with me, Facebook, on email, or whatever, if you'd like to talk to me about that. We can get you done.
Hey, Vicki, you do a lot of online collaboration as well. How did you end up hooking up with someone way over in the UK?
I found a few years ago, I was looking for an online forum because I lived in the wilderness and there wasn't much for people to get together and sing with or work on music of any kind with there. So I was looking online to see, because there's forums for everything. And I found a lot of music forums. Most of them were barely active at all. And I finally found one that was quite active, and it's based in the UK. So most of the members are from England, and most of the ones that aren't are from the wider area of Europe. But there's also I know at least 3 people in the United States, me one of them, and I know there's at least 2 from Canada. I'm sure there's more than what I know because they've got more than 4,000 members, but most of the members are inactive. They'll sign up and forget. Like I signed up and forgot I signed up. And then a year later, because then I ended up with a medical situation and forgot all about all that kind of stuff. And I had surgery. I had breast cancer. So I had to go through that whole process and totally forgot I had done it because that happened right after. And then a year later, I'm looking for a songwriters forum again. And I found that one and I thought, oh, I'll sign up for this, and found out I had already signed up. And then I got active. Then I started listening. Like what you do is you listen and give feedback for other people's music, and then you post your songs and they'll give feedback for yours. And a lot of them are very talented. Most of the active ones are way better than I am at pretty much everything. But they're also like not professionals for the most part. The guy who owns the forum was my main producer for a while, and he wasn't very expensive, and I had a grant, so I was able to hire him to do an album. But there's other people on there that just do it for their own, and once in a while I will collaborate with one of them, and I get the best of the deal because I write and I sing, and then they play all the instruments and they do all the mixing and production and everything, because I'm no good at that, although I'm a little better than I used to be. But and that's how I met the guy from Spain and the guy from France and wherever else. I don't even know where they're all from. I think one's from Scotland and different places. But there's been 2 or 3 of them that have just, some of them just take, like we had one of the challenges was to write a song out of our comfort zone in a genre that we'd never done. So everybody got paired up kind of at random with genres, and mine, the one I drew, was trance. I didn't even know what that was, a genre or what it was. I had to listen to trance music, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to do that. Everything I do is like folky and 60-ish, you know, much different from trance, way, way, way different from trance. And one of the guys on there took what I had done. I found a loop of a cello or viola or something and used that for my bass, and was adding some other stuff onto it at random. I recorded myself saying trance and then chopped that all up, and so it'd go chip, 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 and stuff like that in there, because you're not supposed to have vocals, but you can do that kind of stuff. And then he took it and he added all kinds of stuff to it till I figured, to me, it was his work, not mine, by the time he got done and mixed it all together. But he still called it mine. I said, at the very least, this is a collaboration. But that's how I got hooked up with that one. And that's other ones. One of them was a challenge that we were supposed to do called Bare Bones. And you could do whatever you wanted for bare bones, like do a bare bones production, or write a song named Bare Bones, or write a song about a skeleton or something like that. And one of the guys and I collaborated on one called Bare Bones. And he did most of the writing. I wrote the melody, but he had an instrumental track already put together. And I made the melody to that and sang some words to it, to something I had started. But he had something else in mind, so we went with the something else. It was about King Richard finding his bones in that parking lot when they dug that up several years ago now. So that was I just get the best of the deal generally. So did that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably more than answered the question.
Well, Vicki, I had a question for you. How did the communication that back and forth go with your producer when you guys are so geographically so far apart? Because like I say, everything I was doing was very local and it was really easy to connect with. So how did that go for you?
It is, like, I remember more than once saying this would be so much easier if we could just sit down in the same room and talk it out, but we couldn't do that. So we would just email back and forth or message back and forth. You can private message on the forum, and then we would email, and then we post the tracks, of course, on Dropbox or someplace to share them back and forth. But yeah, it is more challenging to do it that way. It's easier to get together in person and kind of go back and forth and work it out. I'm going to be getting together with a songwriter, but by Zoom. Zoom would work too, and I would think that maybe I'll suggest trying that next time I'm doing a collaboration with somebody from England or wherever. But I've done collaborations. I'm doing one with Christine from Minnesota Association of Songwriters right now for that current collaboration that's going on. And we talked on the phone, I think. I don't think we did Zoom. But I'm going to be talking with somebody tomorrow on Zoom, working on some lyrics. So I think Zoom would be the way to go now, or something similar to that, like FaceTime or the messenger deal where you can video call, that type of thing. But yeah, it is more of a challenge, definitely. But when it's your only option, that's what you do.
Mhm.
It might be worth noting that I just read an article last week that said there are no songs currently on the radio hit charts in the top 100 that are not written by at least two collaborative writers. There are no individual writers anymore. It doesn't exist. It's gone. The last big song, if I recall, was Happy by Farrell. He wrote that himself alone, but that is intensely rare now. So yeah, all this talk of collaboration, it's not really an option anymore. It's the way it has to be done in modern songwriting.
Yeah, Joe, with that, I remember you mentioning to me that something that was really surprising to me, and maybe viewers are going to find it really interesting too, is that there really rarely is that moment where you now have like musicians recording at a studio, right?
Yeah,
That-
yeah.
Would you like
Locally
to say
here,
more?
I've worked hard, and it's been challenging as I've learned the business. I've worked hard to build a team of local musicians to come in and assist me. Of course, I had Acoustic Smoke, the traveling band. There was either two of us or three of us, depending on what season the band was in. But I have about a half a dozen local musicians. Some of them will come into the studio directly and work with me one-on-one. We'll lay out a bass track. Some of them will go to Roy's studio, my guitarist, and work out a keyboard track or something like that. But more and more, even that group of half a dozen musicians are building up their own little home studios. And they come to me for advice and to understand, well, what do I need next? What kind of equipment do I want? How do I run this? And their recordings are getting better and better and better. And so it's less often that they have to come to me and record here. So even the local guys, I don't actually see that often anymore. Right now, we're just wrapping up a new recording that I actually have it queued up here. We're wrapping it up for sale, and it's all online. I mean, none of us have gotten in anybody's studio. We're just bouncing tracks back and forth. So once that's the case, then it gets easier just to simply spread out across the country or across the world, you know. So I work with musicians all over the world, just like Vicki's talking about. That's exactly it, you know. And Doyle, he's talking about working with musicians all over the state. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's how it is now. And online works, and being able to blast out these tracks and bounce them back and forth to one another, as long as everybody kind of knows what they're doing technologically, that works really well. It is the future.
Well, you guys got a really great comment from Facebook from Pete McKenzie, who's another musician in the area. And he said, this is really great. Good to see so much music and behind the scenes home recording going on. Keep doing what you do, guys.
Thanks so much for that comment, Pete. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, Joe, would you like to share a little bit of music with us since you've got that?
I suppose I could do that, and we'll hear Doyle get brave on his guitar here.
Yes,
You're a better man than I am, Doyle. I'm going to hand it to you. All right, so now, now this is a song. This is called Dear Brother Run. This is one that we're just wrapping up now. We actually got together for this one for the first time in years, got in a large space. Roy and I hauled in all our studio equipment together, and we made a live recording of this, which we're now mixing down and finishing up for sale. I just sent some demo tracks of this off for some prospective clients here yesterday, as a matter of fact. So I went ahead and made a recording of me doing the vocal track here in the studio. See if I can do a screen share. Oh, yeah. And there it is. Share. Is that up? That should be up.
We see ya.
And do you want to put it full screen on your end? And that way people can see the full screen?
Perfect.
never follow the road, dear brother. You only follow the sun. Keep your eyes on the far west line. That's where you go when you run. Mark your way as the sun goes down. You gotta move quick past the open ground. Never steal from the fields or they hunt you down. Yeah, they lock the doors when the sun goes down. And after that, there ain't no way out. Voices in your head still sing and cry. It's a 1-2 punch when the lights go down. It gets uglier when the dark come round. Passing down his pain with a little smile. Never follow the road, dear brother. You only follow the sun. If you can't swim the water for the gators, then you gotta go around as you run. Move north from the rails, dear brother. You never follow the line. 'Cause the brakeman turns when the engine burns and is gonna call you out in time. And you can search the black for the light or the dark to feed your demon pack that hopeful spark. Keep a few at bay with an IOU. When the scratch man come to collect his due, man, he ain't gonna take no lip from you. There was always ever only one way in a bank that you knew. Never follow the road, dear brother. You only follow the sun. Keep your eyes on the far west line. That's where you go when you run. Mark your way as the sun goes down. You gotta move quick past the open ground. Never steal from the fields or they'll hunt you down. Better make for the woods, dear brother. You better make good time. We got the maples and the oaks and the walnut trees, but the pines stand north of that line. You can douse the place in kerosene. You might get burned, but at least you can see. Take an axe to the door, but it won't come down. You're out of the fire and in pain. Now you stand in the pouring rain. You never get another chance. Well, you better run now. Well, the hounds will chase like hell's afire. The driver's push gonna take you alive. There's an elbow chase and the bounce gonna keep you down. You're out of the fire and into the pain. Now you stand in the pouring rain. You never get another chance. Well, you better run now. You never follow the road, dear brother. You only follow the sun. Keep your eyes on the far west line. That's where you go when you run. Mark your way as the sun goes down. You gotta move quick past the open ground. Never steal from the fields or they'll hunt you down.
Wow,
Oh, there we go.
that was pretty
Okay.
fabulous.
That was fun.
That was
Stop
really great.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but as you can see,
To watch too.
that song would not be particularly good for a radio artist. It's not that kind of music, but it's not hard to envision that song in the background of your favorite nighttime TV drama. That you can see. If they get the right scene with the right concept going on in the scene, that fits really, really well and heightens the sense of drama. So that's the direction that I write, and that's why I do that.
I want to
Beautiful.
listen
Thank you
to it
so
on
much.
the radio. I want to listen to it on a podcast. I want to listen to it wherever you're going to go.
Agreed. And now I'm super excited. Doyle, you are going to, like Joe said, you are going to do it live and with us, just like you love to. So would you care to give us a little bit of a gift of your voice now?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. This is my preferred method. The electronic stuff, that magic that Joe just showed, that feels more foreign to me. So I'm in awe of what you did there, Joe. That's awesome.
You don't need to do that to make great music and sell it to artists. You take it away. You're a braver man than I am. I'm just going to hide behind the videos over here, Doyle.
So this song is from my EP that I put out this spring, and it kind of harkens back to that story I told in the introduction about where my music came from. This is a song called Black Red Sunburst, and my dad had a guitar that was a sunburst. It was dark on the edges and light in the middle, kind of like this one, but his was black to red, and so that's where this title comes from. It's called Black Red Sunburst. Dad's left leg on the foot of my bed, flat top with black, sun bursting to red. We studied each word he sang into the night. He'd cradle that guitar on one knee. There was no place I'd rather be, riding sound waves off into the dark. Sound of his voice and that old steel string, neither was perfect, but still they rang. In our beds we were in the West Texas town of El Paso. Gave us music and a chance to be free, taught us joy wrapped in a melody, always took us back home down country roads. We were lost and found in that black red sunburst sound. Johnny's mutton chops framed his face, a man in black of our own time and place, set our dreams to classic country songs. He sang Amanda, light of my life, come home at supper time, sung in the moonlight, had us stepping on that green, green grass of home. Sound of his voice and that old steel string, neither was perfect, but here's the thing. In our beds we were in the West Texas town of El Paso. Gave us music and a chance to be free, taught us joy wrapped in a melody, always took us back home down country roads. We were lost and found in that black red sunburst sound. Some days his hearing aids refuse to work, he still grabs that guitar like clockwork, writes his dreams to three-chord life-worn truths. Now and then he still sings one for us, wants harmony on that second chorus, serenades us off into the night. Sound of his voice and that old steel string, neither is perfect, but still they ring. In our heads we're in the West Texas town of El Paso. Gives us music and a chance to be free, teaches joy wrapped in a melody, always takes us back home down country roads. We're still lost and found in that black red sunburst sound. We're still lost and found in that black red sunburst sound. I'll always be lost and found in that black red sunburst sound.
Wow. Yay.
Yeah,
That was
really good.
Beautiful. Thank
Got
you.
a beautiful images in there, just really well It's chipper, but it's not. It's a happy song, in a just kind of a laid back, pleasant, easygoing way. Yeah, see, now that kind of thing, the radio artists, they like that stuff. It's good. You could do that.
It's funny, I don't know how much process you want to get into, but I find that as the more steady I am at working towards writing, sometimes it feels like I'm chipping at the rock pile. That's the image I always use is I'm working at it, nothing's happening, but then something happens in a different song. And that's how that song came about. I was working at something that I don't think is still even finished, and then sat down one day and that one came a lot easier. So I find if I'm able to work at it, then something fruitful comes forth.
I have that experience a lot. My current struggle that I'm having with songwriting, and I am having one, at this point in my career, I feel guilty when I write. I just feel terrible. I sit down to write songs and the guilt it just drives me insane, and it can be really debilitating. And the reason is, although it's counterintuitive, is because I know what I should be doing is running my business. What I should be doing is getting the songs out there where they need to go. I should be making the connections. I should be pushing the business side of this way harder. I've got 120 songs in the catalog. It's not like I'm lacking for music, but I don't like doing the business. Well, I'm an artiste. So that's what I'm struggling with. How about you, Vicki?
What am I struggling with?
Yeah.
Time mainly, probably. It's hard having time consistently. It's hard to do things in bits and pieces for me, but I have a lot of interruptions, so I can't although sometimes I'll get like a couple hours straight, which feels like 15 minutes, and I'm pretty shocked when I see the clock. But time would be the big thing. And production, doing more of the stuff, like I feel like I do okay on writing with words and melodies and stuff, but I'd like to be able to do more like what you do. And I work at it, but I never feel like I'm getting there with that part. I'm better than I was a year ago, I suppose, or 2 years ago, but I'm still a long ways from anything that sounds professional.
Oh, it's taken me so long to be able to produce music here in the studio that can compete with what's coming out of the studios in Nashville. I can do it now. I'm there. My producers and my song pitchers all tell me, yep, you're there, you got it. But man, it's been hard. And it hasn't really been all that much fun.
Well, that's the other thing. I like the writing and the singing, but the producing, I'd like to have my own producer, my own.
Yeah.
I'd like to be rich so I could just hire all that stuff done. Like for you could hire somebody to do marketing.
Yeah, if I could, I totally would. I totally would.
That's the other thing is money. I can't do that much if I have to pay people to do stuff. So, and if I was going to do really, really, like I'd like to get into sync licensing, but like you said, it has to be radio ready or perfect at the time.
Or at least competitive with what's coming out of Nashville.
What's that?
It at least has to be competitive with what's coming out of the Nashville studios, or there's just no point.
I was even told by one person that you can't have computer generated instruments, but now you just said that.
I got news for him.
I will no longer believe that.
Don't worry about that.
So Vicki, for the people who don't know what sync something is.
Sync licensing? Joe explained it a little bit, but it's basically writing music and pitching it to people who are putting together TV shows. They have
right. Okay. Thank you for the reminder.
Syncing up with a video. Yeah.
Got it.
Any video.
And it could be all kinds of stuff. Documentaries, shows, commercials, YouTube channels, podcasts. I mean, there's loads of people. And there's a real wide variety of what you can get paid for that too, from nothing up to $30,000 a shot or more, even depending. Like if you got a theme song for a TV show, which is pretty unlikely, that could be extremely lucrative. But then you have residuals or whatever you call them. Every time the stuff plays, you get money.
You get paid through your artist union.
We have another great comment from Facebook. Julie Ray says, this is so fun to see. You guys are amazing.
Nah.
You are. You
We're just
are.
trying to survive.
I wanted to mention something about something Doyle said. He'd said, having written one thing, it was like, I'll never be able to do this again type of idea. And I've had that repeatedly. Like I'll come up finally with what I think is my best melody ever. And the greatest song I've ever done is like, well, now I'm done because I'll never be able to duplicate that or certainly not surpass it. But then eventually I do. And I've learned that there are more good melodies in there somewhere, probably. So if I keep at it long enough, I'll still get another one. So
and it's so hard. It's so hard to trust that the fact that there's more out there. I've done collaborations with folks where I've sent them something, and then you just it kind of dies. You know, they don't send back, or they don't. The collaboration kind of dies. And I think, well, with that idea, it was such a great idea, and then, like you say, a couple of weeks of writing, and all of a sudden, oh, who cares about that? This is my new baby.
You know, but something else you said, Doyle, that I thought was important and worth bringing about again is you get a piece of a song and then you move on to the next one. You don't finish it necessarily, but you might use pieces of it later on. Mm-hmm. And that song I just played, that song has been in the works for me in various forms and recordings for 2 solid years. And, wow. You know, there's no songwriting collaboration on that except for the music with the band. You know, they worked on that. But I have a half a dozen songs sitting on my desk in various stages of completion all the time. And some of them stay there for a couple of years. Some of them are there for a week. Some of them are there for months. And I've always been concerned about that. Not sure, is this how it's done? Well, I heard Mark Knopfler used to be the leader of Dire Straits, and now he does songs kind of like what I write. He's my hero. But anyway, and he was doing he was doing an interview with a radio station, and they asked him how, as he's gotten older, he's produced more music. And he said, yeah, I got 100 of them all just kind of sitting around, and when I get home today, I'll have a sandwich, see how the songs are coming along, and maybe write another line here, maybe erase a line there. And I thought, yes, it's not just me. Be encouraged.
Well, I was going to show you. This is my notebook, and you know, the majority of these are definitely finished, but there's a couple of stinkers in there that they're just and that's what I've heard from more experienced songwriters is some of these songs will never ever finish. Yeah. And you have to be okay because they're just like chasing your tail. You'll never finish that song. And but you're right. You've got a whole junkyard you can go and take for the next song.
And I do. That song I just played was an amalgamation of 2 or 3 other songs that just never made the cut in my mind. But my guitarist, he produced a guitar track that he just thought was great. Not for this song, not for any song. He just produced it in his studio, sent it to me, and said, Joe, what have you got sitting around that might fit this? And I was like, oh my gosh, have I got a deal for you. I got these 3 sets of lyrics I just can't work with, but if I cut them together and I put them together and I do the thing and they fit perfect, and it's an awesome piece of music. And then sometimes that's what you get. That's awesome.
So Vicki, I'm curious, you know, when you create music and when you create songwriting, do you think of the melody first? I mean, I've always been curious. Like, I think, you know, I just would love to hear that.
I have done it every which way, actually. I usually do melody and words together. I'll start with either a line or a sequence of notes or something, and I'll just kind of build them together. But I have written all the words first completely and then gone back and come up with music for it. And I haven't done too much where I've written all the music first, but I have taken tracks by other people and made and put words to them. And that actually is a good tool. If I'm really stuck with something, I'll grab an instrumental track from somewhere, maybe just some loops or something, and play them just to get ideas. But I've had complete, like an instrumental track that one of those guys from England, gave me and said, I got any ideas for this? And had done it from there. So I'm interested in how people do their writing, because to me, writing always meant actually writing. And I've learned that a lot of people do their writing sitting, playing guitar and recording and playing back and stuff. I almost can't do it that way. I have to notate everything. On music, well, not paper, I do it on the computer now. I used to do it on paper in the old days. But I have to notate it out almost exclusively. I have finally, well, it was 2014 or 2015, the first time that I did a song where I didn't notate it first. I tried to, but I couldn't notate it. So finally I just recorded it without notating it. But normally I have to notate everything. And if somebody sends me a song, like if I'm going to do a song, they'll send me they never notate anything. Other people don't notate anything. And they'll send it to me.
I have another question from Facebook, Vicki. They want to know if you're going to sing.
Oh, I wasn't planning to. I'd have to, somebody else have to do something while I find something quick if I was going to do that.
Oh, maybe we can hear about the other two singer-songwriters and what your process is to the answer to the question that Vicki posed. Like,
Take
what
it
is-
away, Doyle.
Yeah, and I'll see if I can find a song real quick.
When Vicki was talking about the notating and the tools that she was using, this is my best tool right here, my smartphone. And Steve Earle, who is a pretty prolific songwriter, talks about it too. He says every little snippet, every little bit of music or lyric or whatever. And so I've got videos and I've got little basically a digital recorder on there. Joe's holding up. And so I've got lists. I can just scroll through lists of these little hunks of ideas. And I've even gotten it to the point where I know that after about 11 or 12 times through my idea, I get pretty close to where I feel my song is done. And that's just my process. You know, I take a hunk and then I add a little hunk. And sometimes it feels like Frankensong, you know, because you're but
I want to hear that song, Frankensong. That's a great name.
But and then other times it does kind of just come to you. It gets dropped down from the clouds. But what I found is I don't get anything dropped down from the clouds unless I'm actively writing, actively doing it. And so I have to do the work, and I may not expect the direction it comes from, but it will come, you know, either through, you know, chiseling on the rock pile or through, you know, coming down from the clouds.
Yeah, it's a different process for everybody. And it depends for me on what I'm writing. When I do my heavy story songs like Woody's Fairly Reliable Guide Service, you know, it's the History Channel. And that's kind of the flavor that they're after. So I did exactly what a novelist does. I moved in with Woody for a weekend.
Wow.
And I lived there and I interviewed him and I interviewed all of his friends. Wow. I drank his beer. I went down and I met the Border Patrol agents that he was bribing with beer to leave him alone so they wouldn't hassle his fishing guide thing. I listened to him rant about the government and rant about, you know, being irate about taxes. And I wrote everything down and I picked up old newspapers. I went and did research in their archives, read a couple of books on the Rainier area. And then I started writing the song. And that's, for the heavy story songs, I do that. And then I also use the same methods that Doyle is using. Depends on the type of song I'm working on. You ready there, Vicki? We got faith.
Oh, I thought I was muted. I was making noise, wasn't I?
It was good noise. That's all right.
Do you want to be muted for a little bit, or you're good?
No, I'm ready.
Okay, awesome.
So I won't be looking up because, like I told you, I can't remember words to anything, even if I just wrote them myself, especially if I just wrote them myself. So this is one that is kind of a co-written piece. What I did was on my Facebook page that I call Late Bloomers Rock, because late bloomers do rock. And I posted a challenge on there to people to give me song titles, and that if I chose a song title and wrote a song to it, that they would be a co-writer on the song then, because that would be part of the song. And I got several. Region 2 Arts Council gave me one. I did not write a song to that one, sorry. Most of them were just like, I'm thinking, I can't think of anything to make a song for, but this one, or I initially didn't think I would think of anything for it, but then there was something on the news about the airlines moving their seats closer together so they could get more people in. And that the title that she gave me was "I Need Room for My Legs."
That's
And my
awesome.
co-writer is Susan Norland Douglas, and I've never met her that I can think of, but she was on my Facebook page. So, and this is "I Need Room for My Legs." Did you hear the news? The airlines are feeling a pinch. I've been told the crews are taking away another inch. What are they trying to do? I ask you. Some of us need the space. They keep packing in more and more seats, but I need room for my legs. I need room for my legs. Oh man, you know I need room for my legs. Please stop pushing those seats so close together. I need room for my legs. I just bought a new car. It'll go all day on one tank. But when I get behind the wheel, I discover the chassis shrank. What are they trying to do? I ask you. Some of us need the space. Sure, I get better MPG, but I need room for my legs. I need room for my legs. Oh man, you know I need room for my legs. Please don't make the cars any smaller, cause I need room for my legs. I just went to a movie, it's one I really wanted to see. They had moved the rows to fit more in, and there wasn't any room for my knees. What are they trying to do? I ask you. Some of us need the space. Don't like the knees poking in my back, and I need room for my legs. I need room for my legs. Oh man, you know I need room for my legs. Please stop pushing those rows together, cause I need room for my legs. Please stop pushing those rows together, cause I need room for my legs.
That is
That's catchy.
awesome.
That is catchy.
Thank you so much, Vicki. That was really great. I'm so glad that we got a chance to hear from all of you, so that everybody listening, remember to check their music out at r2arts.org. Hit the ReZume Arts button and you'll find all of their contact information. Just keep in mind that these are great resources for you in town, whether you're a musician, whether you're wanting to songwrite, whatever that is. They are just really great people to connect with. And I just really want to thank you all for being part of ReZume Arts today. It's been a real pleasure and joy to have you with us. And I guess we will see. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that for the next ReZume Arts segment, it's November 25th. So make sure you mark your calendar. We have Kelly Schultz, who is a Milner, and she'll be talking about her work. For anybody who doesn't know hats. She makes these amazing hats, as well as Winona Kingbird is also going to be with us. And so we're super excited about that. So stay tuned, because we'll be sending out information about the artists as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope everybody has a great rest of this Veterans Day.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. That was fun.
Yes, it was.
Thank you. It was awesome.